To introduce myself, my name is Fatin Muhammad. I am the host and executive producer of the Open Line Show that airs Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. on 107.5 WBLS. I'm also the executive producer of Sunday Morning with Reverend Al Sharpton. And now we are going to bring someone to the stage that is a personal friend of mine, someone who I've seen grow in the civil rights business. I've known her parents. I've saw her grow as a young lady into a mature sister. She is the co-founder of the Until Freedom organization. She is the winner of the Phoenix Uprising Award from the Circle of Sisters 2019. I would like to welcome to the stage my personal friend, Tamika Mallory. Give it up for Tamika Mallory, everyone. How you doing, Tamika? How's everything?
I'm doing good. I'm in my flats right now, so I feel really, really good.
Real good, real good.
How you doing, Fatin?
I'm doing good, Tamika.
You know, I just want to say before we even get started that people who are behind the scenes don't always receive the credit and attention that they deserve. But so many of the great moments of us listening to a number of people and on the radio has been because it was facilitated by Fatin Muhammad. So let's give him a round of applause for being a steadfast player in this work, and he's made WBLS like no one else ever could.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Tamika. Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me just say congratulations on the Phoenix Rising Award that you won today here at the Circle of Sisters. I want to commend you on the work, the civil rights work that you do for our community. But I want you to let our folks know, how did you get involved in civil rights work?
Yeah, you know, and Fatin has known me since I was a very, very young girl. You know, I was privileged. At the time, I didn't think I was privileged, but to have parents who didn't just tell me about the work, they didn't just go on their own, but they took me and they made me, literally forced me. At that time, I think it was okay to beat your kids. And so they would whip me all the way to the rally all the time because I didn't want to be involved. I didn't think that the rally was where the cool people were, or that being a part of organizing work was fun. And it took me a lot of years of having my parents really encourage me to stay involved before it clicked. And that acknowledgement of my need to be in the work really happened when my son's father was murdered. So I had been going to rallies and being part of the different networks, and obviously I was a member of National Action Network, where Reverend Al Sharpton is the president and founder. And I had been involved in all those things since I was about 3 years old. But it was when I was 19 and my son's father was murdered. He was left in a ditch for 2 weeks, shot and killed before his body was discovered. And that's when I think everything that I had been working on, it clicked. All the rallies, all the conversations, you know, all of the history, it clicked for me. And I just threw myself into it and became a full-fledged activist in my own right.
As a woman, being in the civil rights movement, we hear of numerous heroes. Rosa Parks, you had Betty Shabazz, you had Coretta Scott King, you had Harriet Tubman. Do you feel, as a woman, that women are taken serious and the message that you are trying to deliver is taken serious by our folks?
You know, I think that even the civil rights movement has the disease of patriarchy. Like, that's just the reality of it, right? But I do think that there is an awakening about the power of women, even within the movement. we have always been leaders within the work. You named some incredible individuals, but there are many who were behind the scenes that no one ever called their name. But without them, what we saw happening and what we now enjoy as our rights would not have been. If it were not for Betty, who may have, and I'm not talking about Betty Shabazz, but just a woman named Betty who actually fried the chicken to make sure that Dr. King was fed. Everyone plays a role, and we cannot discount women who are nurturers, providers, and also the strategists at times, you know, to that have been able to help shape this work. And I think what we see in this time of the woman, particularly after the Women's March, which was an incredible occasion that I am proud to have been a part of and to have been one of the leaders of, it really opened up the conversation about women. And look how many women we've sent to office since the first Women's March happened in 2017.
The power of the female sometimes is underestimated out here. Let me ask you this. You've been in a lot of fights, a lot of struggles in the movement, in the struggle for liberation for us as a people of color out here, as black people. What would you say has been one of the toughest struggles and battles that you have had to fight so far?
You know, my answer to that would have been very different if I had been asked months ago when I was going through a very serious, when I was going through a very serious time of being really castigated for my relationship with Minister Farrakhan.
Right.
I think that probably was a difficult time. But I also think, and stick with me on this, that one of the things that happens to activists and leaders is that at some point you have to face your family members, and particularly your children, about the lack of time that you've been able to spend with them and to be the type of family member or mother that you would want to be. So the most difficult thing that I've had to deal with in this work is balancing dealing with my 20-year-old son. Because even today, he can talk for himself now, you know. It's not like when he was 6 years old, then he might have cried because mommy left. Now he is very, very, very articulate and explaining what it has felt like to have his mother be, you know, really connected to so many other people and working on behalf of others and missing really important things and not being there when he needed to be comforted. So that is something that has been a difficult struggle, and it is the struggle that comes with the sacrifice of giving yourself to the work. And right now we're in the process of trying to heal those wounds.
As you mentioned, Tamika, you mentioned your parents in the beginning as you started saying that they took you to the rallies. You just mentioned your son, and as I look at it, it's the baton being passed from generation to another generation. And as a parent, you see the responsibility of passing that information and that knowledge.
Right.
But as you being a student and a child, what do you feel the responsibility when your parents gave you the information and passed the baton to you? We see that you was willing to accept it,
Right.
but at first, were you willing to accept it?
No,
And if not, what made you move forward to move into the direction that you're moving in the civil rights movement?
As I said, you know, I did not want to be involved in the movement. However, when my son's father was murdered, I knew that something was wrong with the fact that black men were being killed and no one was being held accountable. No one was even talking about it. If it made it to the news, it was to discredit the young black man. But it was never to talk about the loss of life and to really discuss solutions for the fact that our men and now women are really just being thrown to the wayside. It's like we kick the dirt over the dead body and keep on moving to the next funeral. You know, and that for me was where I felt like my calling was really, it was right in that space. that I had a responsibility to get involved in what was happening in my community and in this society, because if not, my son could become the next victim. And so I think in terms of passing the baton, what I would say to folks who are here today is that you cannot, as I mentioned in the beginning, you cannot just send your children. You cannot be the type of person that teaches your children that activism is about posting something on social media or just hollering at the TV. You have to take your children and get involved and show them the benefits and the goodwill of doing work on behalf of people in your community, people who look like you.
As we approach the 2020 election, this is one of the most important elections that we tend to look at. We come up where we can look back and we saw the first African-American president. We saw the country moving in one direction that we thought was a positive direction. There we have bumps down the road with President Obama. Of course we had challenges as the first African-American president. But as we look at 2020, where are we as black people here in America as we approach the 2020 election?
We're in a very, I could talk about all the negative things because we know we're in a real serious situation. And a lot of our people have this mindset that because they don't hear the president and others using the word black when they say certain things, that we know are dangerous for the world, they think that it's gonna pass us. But what we need to understand is that every time if they say they're gonna build the wall may be in this moment about other communities. But somehow or another, it will turn around and that wall will be about black people, black men, black youth, black women dying or being oppressed in our society. There is no level of oppression that black people have been able to escape. It always comes down to us being at the foundation of this nation to suffer from the ill will of those who are in charge and in power. So I could talk about all the dangerous things and what we need to do. But what I think is so important for us to discuss today, especially being at Circle of Sisters, all these beautiful, amazing black women and black people looking around at who has gathered here, is that we have incredible power. And I think we need to lean right now into the idea that we have the ability to flip this election. If we go and we not only vote, but register every single person in our family to show up at the polls. And not just for the presidential election, but in every single election that happens in our community. From the school board all the way to the senator, we must be involved. Because without black people and without black women, it cannot happen. No one can win without us. 94% of black women voted for Hillary Clinton, whether we liked her or not. It wasn't about whether we liked her. We made a decision on behalf of this country. That type of support, imagine if we also had our young people and our brothers voting in the same way. We could be the ones who every candidate has to come to, but right now, they play with us, but they don't take us as seriously as we should be taken, and that's because we need to do the collective work.
And my last question. A lot of time when folks look at civil rights leaders, they see elder leadership. And they see elder leadership because folks have put in the work. But when folks look at you, they see a young African-American black woman. That's like an oxymoron there. African-American black woman. What message do you send out to I'm looking at some young sisters in the audience there. What message do you send out to the young girls out there going forward as they have to pick up the mantle because they are our future? What message do you leave them with today?
I would just say to young women that, first of all, I'm 40 years old. I'm 39. I'll be 40 in 1 year. And as I said, I have a son who's half my age. So we've grown up together, the two of us. And I would tell young women that I was younger than you when I got started. And a lot of people want the accolades and the lights and all of that comes with the glory that comes with being a public figure. But the reality is that I put in the work. And you know, as you watch me, I was in the background. I knew not to talk when no one asked me to speak. I knew to go get the bags, get the coffee, do whatever I had to do. I put in the work. So many of our young people are walking out into society believing that because they studied some things, they read some books, they on social media, they might have, their pages might be popping. You might be a real popping social media influencer right now. But that does not mean that you've put in the work beyond those who came before you. And so I suggest to all of our youth and our young women who are coming up, no one is saying wait your turn. No, take your spot. Do what you need to do, but remember that I saw a meme one day that says young people have the stamina to run the race, but our elders know the road. And you remember that as you're doing your work.
Brothers and sisters, our young sister, Tamika Mallory. Thank you, Tamika. I love you, sister. Continue. It's dangerous out here. Be careful on the work you do. Thank you.